The hall was too quiet. Not peaceful, but tense, sharp, like the silence right before a storm. Lights flickered above the massive round table where 12 alien representatives sat in polished silver chairs, their eyes fixed on the only human. In the room, he sat calmly, hands folded, the Earth emblem glowing gently on his collar. His name was Envoy Thomas Wren, and he was not a soldier, not a spy, not a threat. He was a diplomat, a speaker of peace. He had come across 5 star systems on Earth's behalf to meet with the Galactic Council one last time. After a year of rising tension, border disputes, false accusations, and strategic sanctions, Earth had requested this emergency summit in the hope that words might stop what weapons could not. But deep down, Wren had known something was wrong the moment he entered the council chamber. It wasn't just the cold welcome, the stiff body language, or the lack of small talk. It was the way the air itself felt, tight, like the walls were closing in. The Valari delegate wouldn't look him in the eyes. The Miari remained silent. The Sornak ambassador kept tapping one clawed finger on the table in a slow rhythm tick. Tick-tick like a countdown. Wren stood up slowly, knowing every movement was being watched. He cleared his throat and began to speak, his voice strong but calm. The way Earth had trained its diplomats for centuries, he spoke of peace, he spoke of honor. He reminded them of Earth's history, not of war, but of rebuilding, of standing beside the weak, of helping planets rebuild after pirate invasions and sending aid to worlds the Council had long abandoned. He spoke of Earth's rise not as a conquest, but as a quiet promise that they would never repeat the mistakes of the past. And finally, he offered the Council a path forward: neutrality, open dialogue, and mutual defense. "We do not seek to rule," Wren said, eyes locking with the Council leaders. "We only ask for respect, for sovereignty, and for the space to protect those who call us ally." There was a pause, a long one. Then the head counselor stood. Her skin was like molten gold, her robes flowing like smoke. Her name was Drelvas Sorin, and her voice echoed through the chamber like thunder. "K." But what she said sent a cold wave through Wren's spine. Earth has already broken the Council's trust. You have expanded too far. You have violated ancient boundaries. You have offered protection to our enemies. Your diplomacy is a lie. Wren didn't understand at first. Stepped forward, confused, stunned. That's not true. Every action we've taken has been open. You've seen our movements. We've shared our data. Even invited Council observers, but Drell wasn't listening. The other delegates were now standing. The room was shifting. Guards entered. Heavy steps, blaster rifles, black armor. Wren's voice dropped to a whisper. "What is this?" One of the guards raised a neural restraint band. Another pulled Wren's arms behind his back. No trial, no protest, no explanation. "By Council order," Drell said coldly, "you are to be executed for crimes of espionage and planetary manipulation. Earth's influence has destabilized the order of the galaxy. You are the symbol of that infection. Today, we remove it." Back on Earth, in the United Systems Command Center, the live diplomatic feed cut to static. Just seconds before, they had heard Wren's voice, then shouting, then silence. No signal, no pulse, no confirmation. And Earth went quiet. Not a single broadcast, not a single word from any Terran. Official, no protests, no threats, nothing, but across military installations buried in the mountains, deep in the oceans, and hidden behind the dark side of Luna, old protocols activated. Ancient AI systems, booted for the first time in centuries. Red indicators began blinking across command boards, flashing codenames Earth hadn't used since the Hollow War, one by one. Commanders received a silent notification on their implants. Protocol Vengeance, Alpha Tier confirmed. The Diplomat had been executed. There would be no more peace talks. Above Earth, the orbital fleet began to shift. Ships that had been in sleep mode powered up. Engines hummed. Weapons that hadn't seen light in decades were unlocked. Pilots were called in. From leave, some were eating dinner, others were asleep. None asked questions. They had trained for this moment their whole lives. Earth had one message for its people broadcast on every private and public channel. The olive branch has been cut. Earth will respond. In the Outer Rim, near Council-controlled trade routes, things started to go wrong. Patrol ships vanished. Beacons died. Entire fleets dropped out of contact. But Earth said nothing. No claims, no warnings, just silence. The Council sent scouts. None returned. A week passed, then two. Finally, a report made it through an automated probe's footage, showing Earth's black arcs hovering in deep space, completely still. No movement, no comms, no lights. But the ships were re-land, terrifying. Huge, black, and ancient-shaped, like daggers pointed toward the stars. Weapons of unknown design protruded from their hulls. But it wasn't the weapons that scared the analysts. It was the number of ships. Earth wasn't sending a strike force. Earth was sending everything. On Valari Prime, a former ally of Earth, Ambassador Thalos watched the growing shadow in the stars and knew the truth. "This isn't a fleet for war," he whispered to his aides. "This is a fleet for memory. Because Earth had warned them long ago, we don't start wars, but we finish them." In a hidden facility on Mars, Admiral Elias Grant received the final authorization. Stood before a holographic map of the Galaxy Council systems glowing in. Blue, Earth's allies in green, and everything else in red. No transmissions, he ordered. No negotiations. No surrender demands. The Council took our peace. Now, we take their silence. The operation began not with missiles, but with disappearances. Council communication hubs simply ceased. To exist, stations were found emptied, still floating, systems intact, but no life aboard. In one sector, 5 Council warships drifted back into normal space, completely disabled, crew alive, untouched, confused. In their cargo bay was a single Terran banner with the words, "He came in peace. You answered with death." The Council scrambled. They issued calls for ceasefire. They begged for diplomacy, but Earth did not respond. Diplomats had all been recalled. Their embassies emptied, their translators silenced. Humanity had withdrawn from the game of words and, now, they were playing a different one. And across every screen, on every planet, every station, every world within the Council's reach. One final message appeared simple, cold, and untraceable. "This was not our choice. You made it ours. Prepare for consequences." The galaxy was waiting for Earth to scream. They were waiting for Terran leaders to fill the news networks with fury. Waiting for angry speeches, for threats, for televised grief. They expected crowds in the streets, fires in Terran cities, chants for war. They had seen how other species responded to humiliation with chaos and panic. The Council believed that Earth, for all its pride, was still young, still emotional, still breakable. But they were wrong when Earth lost their envoy executed. Without trial, without honor, without warning, they didn't scream. They went quiet, terrifyingly quiet. No interviews. No statements. Not even a word of protest. Earth's embassies across Council worlds sealed their doors. The flags were taken down. Diplomatic offices powered off their lights. Ships disappeared from public lanes. Civilian traffic stopped. Messages were returned. The galaxy mocked them at first. "They're afraid," said a news anchor on the Jalari core channel. "Earth knows it can't stand against the Council," said the Rithon Strategist Network, even within Council chambers. Delegates laughed behind closed doors. "They talk big," muttered one military official, "but they'll bend like everyone else. Their silence means surrender." But the Valari knew better. They were among the few who had stood with Earth once, long ago when Tehran ships had shown up after a pirate attack with nothing but food, medkits, and power cells. No contracts, no payment, just help. And the Valari had remembered that. So when the Council executed Earth's envoy, the Valari ambassador immediately resigned. He walked out of the Council chamber, leaving his seat empty. His government withdrew from trade negotiations and sent a single message toward Earth: "We remember, and we are with you." No response came, not even to them, because Earth wasn't preparing to talk. They were preparing for something else. Beneath the surface of Luna, the moon and ancient vault rumbled open. It hadn't been touched since the Hollow War. Deep inside, behind layers of security, was the Soul Core Directive. A plan written for only one condition: when Diplomacy is killed. One by one, Earth's black arcs were reactivated. These were not normal ships. They were relics of forgotten technology, colossal in size, invisible to most sensors, and powered by cores that defied standard physics. They had no official records. They weren't in any council database. Their engines hadn't fired in over 2 centuries. But now they came alive. From the shadows of dead systems, they emerged the Obsidian. Storm, Silent Meridian, TDS Justice Unbound, and more. They did not enter trade lanes. They didn't request docking rights. They flew in the deep, silent folds between stars, waking up as if from hibernation, in command centers across the galaxy. Alarm signals rang. Council fleets went on high alert. Admirals held emergency meetings, and still, Earth said nothing. On a distant, council-controlled moon, a border listening post picked up a strange transmission. It wasn't a warning or a broadcast. It's just coordinates, empty space. Thinking it might be a mistake, they ignored it. 17 hours later, the station went offline. When a patrol ship arrived to investigate, they found it completely untouched and completely abandoned. All systems still worked. Every console was warm. Coffee still sat on a table, but not a single life form remained. No bodies. No signs of violence, just one word written on the main console screen in Terran Standard: debt. The Council sent a fleet to secure the area at 12 ships for Dreadnought's elite command. Out! But when they jumped in, nothing greeted them but static, no resistance, no enemy signals. Then their ships began to die, one by one. Not from attacks. From invisibility, systems crashed, navigation failed, engines reversed course, and in the void beyond their failing scanners, they caught flickers of something massive, something black, gliding in total silence. Only one ship limped back. It broadcast just 3 words. We never saw them. On Earth, no panic erupted. There were no marches, no public outbursts. Instead, everything moved with cold, terrifying purpose. Industries pivoted. Factories stopped producing civilian tech and began building something else, something old, something classified. Orbital stations, locked into defensive positions. Artificial intelligence systems that had monitored peace treaties now reallocated their processing power to target. Prediction and fleet movement simulations, no. Orders were shouted. They had all been given in silence. Because this wasn't revenge. This was response, in the Council's war tower. Supreme Strategist Kale Var sat alone, staring at star maps that looked more uncertain by the day. He watched entire sectors go quiet, not because Earth was attacking them, but because Earth had disappeared into those shadows. "Where are they?" he muttered. "We don't know," one officer said. "They've turned off everything. Stealth. Drives, no pings. No diplomatic traffic. But we're losing outer stations without a single sign of movement." "Then they're already here," Kale whispered. He stood and looked out over the glittering city below. Ships flew in perfect formation. Troops marched. Technology glowed. But it all felt fragile now, because no one knew what Earth was doing. No one could stop it. And worst of all, no one could predict how far they were willing to go. Some races started to panic. The Soriani Confederacy closed its borders and publicly denounced the execution. The Talic Syndicate offered Earth an apology and pledged neutrality. Even within the Council, smaller powers began distancing themselves from Drelvas, Sauron the one who had ordered the execution. But Earth didn't care. They weren't listening anymore. They had done that once. Now, they were moving on the dark side of Jupiter. Deep inside, a hidden station known as Echo 9, Admiral Elias Grant stood before a wall of holographic displays. Each showed sectors, ship counts, and red blinking dots, council targets. Behind him stood 6 of Earth's highest-ranking military leaders. Each had read the Soul Core Directive. Each knew what came next. "We gave them peace," Grant said. Quietly, we offered them every chance. The room was silent. They killed our voice. Another silence. So now, he said, we let our silence speak louder. And in the stars beyond, where council ships searched blind and sensors failed, and fear crept into every station and System Earth's fleets waited, not hidden, not afraid, just ready, because the storm wasn't coming. The storm was already here, and it spoke no words, only silence. The galaxy had grown used to Earth's presence. For decades, Terrans had played by the rules, slow, careful, diplomatic. They signed the treaties, they built trade hubs, they made allies without firing a shot, even their warships were kept. Quiet, rarely seen beyond their own borders. The Council thought Earth was cautious, measured, tame. They never thought to ask why. Why? Earth had never revealed the full size of its military. Why so little was known about the ships based beyond? Pluto, why every human fleet kept at least one battalion unregistered. Because now, the answers were coming, and they came like ghosts. Not with engines roaring, not with lights or flags or war cries, but with cold black holes that slipped through space like shadows, silent, cloaked and unstoppable. The ghost fleets of Earth had awakened, and the galaxy had no idea. How close they already were. The first to feel their presence was the relay station in the Daxon Expanse, a massive orbital tower used by the Council to monitor deep space activity. It had eyes that could see across thousands of light years. On a calm morning cycle, it detected gravitational ripples near an unclaimed star cluster, poles that made no sense. There were no ships nearby, no engine signals. But something was moving, massive and deliberate. The crew reported the anomaly. 8 minutes later, their signal vanished. When a Council scout ship arrived hours later, they found the station empty. No hull damage, no alarms triggered. Every system operational. Only one thing remained. A single word burned into the internal command screen. Reckoning. The Council still told the galaxy that Earth was bluffing. But behind the scenes, panic had begun to spread. Reports from across the outer zones described strange sightings, massive black objects drifting in silence, invisible to scanners, only visible for seconds at a time. Entire patrol groups stopped reporting in. Trade routes fell quiet. Colonies that had once felt untouchable began locking their skies. Admirals called them ghosts, and that's exactly what they were. The ghost fleets. Earth's hidden force had moved out of hiding. Each ship was a monster, built in secret, tested in simulations, polished in the void between stars where no one watched. These weren't ships that needed orders. Their AI systems ran independently. Each one could survive for years without resupply. Each one could think in battle, adjust, improvise, and vanish before being seen. They were the reason Earth never bragged about its strength, because these weren't ships for show. They were ships for vengeance. In Council space, a convoy of diplomatic transports crossed Sector Q996 ships under heavy escort, carrying officials who had once approved Earth's envoy's execution. As a precaution, they brought 2 destroyers and 4 corvettes. Enough, they thought, to scare off even a determined pirate fleet. They were wrong. The attack came without sound, without warning, without even a signal. One moment, the lead destroyer was preparing to warp. The next, it was gone. No explosion, no debris, just gone. The second destroyer managed to send a distress call before its systems shut down entirely. Its crew watched helplessly as their screens went black. Lights flickered, doors locked. Then the ship powered off like someone had flipped a switch across space. Only one escort escaped, shaking, bleeding. Its captain recorded the final moments before they fled in the footage. The dark outline of a Terran warship loomed in the stars its edges, blurred, its surface absorbing light like it was carved from nothing. No nameplate, no code, no hail, just one white symbol glowing on its hull. Broken olive branch inside a circle of stars across Council-controlled space. Chaos spread. Governors demanded answers. Civilians began rioting. Military leaders couldn't agree whether to strike or hide. The Council's official stance remained diplomatic monitoring, but in their war rooms they were terrified. They hadn't seen Earth's main fleets in centuries. They didn't know how many ships existed. They didn't understand how Earth had moved so quickly without being seen. But Earth had always planned for this. They had built their ghost fleets. Not to attack, but to haunt. To break the Council's grip, not through destruction, but through fear. By the third week, the Council had lost access to 6 major supply routes. 12 outposts had gone dark. 3 allies defected, and then Earth made its presence known. Finally, a single message was broadcast across the Council's secured channels and hackable, encrypted by their highest protocols, but Earth had cracked it. The message appeared on every military screen, on every battleship, every base. You executed our diplomat. No trial, no defense. You thought we would shout. We didn't. We prepared. You built a council on fear. We're here to end that. We are the ghost fleets. We do not ask again. Panic exploded. The council ordered full mobilization. Fleets scrambled to protect critical systems. But by then, it was too late. The ghost fleets were already inside, and they weren't there to bargain. On the planet Jarnes 3, Admiral Vale Oren stood inside his war room. Staring at an emergency alert, his fleet's sensors showed nothing approaching. And yet his outer planetary defenses had just gone dark. Suddenly, every light flickered. Power failed. His officers screamed, and through the window above the command platform, he saw a shadow drift into view, massive, black as the void, slow as death. His comes burst to life. But it wasn't Earth's voice. It was his own. A recording from months ago, when he approved the envoy's execution. I vote yes. Let Earth know its place. The message looped again, and then the lights went out for good. Not a single world had been destroyed yet. No cities bombed, no civilian ships attacked, but the galaxy was breaking anyway because Earth was fighting a different war. Not one of planets, but of perception. They didn't want to conquer the galaxy. They wanted the galaxy to understand exactly what happened when you murdered peace. The ghost fleets were Earth's answer to betrayal. They were not angry. They were not chaotic. Were calm, precise, and merciless, because humans did not forget, and now neither would the stars. There are moments in galactic history when silence becomes louder than war. This was one of them. The Council's fleets were still intact. Their planets were still standing, but their control was already collapsing. One by one, allies were backing away. Neutral systems shut their gates. Citizens demanded answers the Council could no longer give, because Earth wasn't attacking with fire. They were attacking with fear. And now, finally, the silence broke not with speeches or debates, but with the first real strike. It started at Zero Station, a critical military hub orbiting a Council-controlled dwarf planet. Over 2,000 personnel worked there: engineers, officers, defense analysts. The station managed supply lines and hyperspace routes in 4 sectors. Protected, monitored, considered untouchable. That illusion ended in 8 minutes, at 2:11 local time. All outgoing transmissions from Zeros went dark by 2:15. Automated sensors from nearby trade ships detected sudden gravitational shifts, unexplainable distortions that briefly knocked navigation offline at 2:18. 3 Council destroyers arrived to investigate. They found nothing. The station was gone. Not destroyed, not damaged. Gone. No debris, no emergency beacons, no escape pods. Just a stretch of cold, empty space, silent, perfect, terrifying. In its place, a satellite drifted slowly, glowing with faint red lights. Council intelligence sent a drone to retrieve it. The device was centuries ahead of their tech, small, polished, Terran make. When opened, it displayed a short message on repeat. He came in peace. You answered with death. This is the debt. That was the moment the Council realized. Earth's patience had ended. The blood price had begun. The Council called for an emergency vote inside their tall silver chamber. The remaining delegates screamed over one another. The Valari had long withdrawn. The Talic had declared neutrality. The Miari now demanded an apology to Earth, terrified of being targeted. But Drelvas Sarin, the same official who had ordered the execution, refused to bend. "If we bow now," she barked, "we confirm Earth's power. We admit weakness. We'll become slaves to their wrath." "Better that," whispered one delegate, then vanish without a trace. But it was too late for talk by the time the council voted. Earth had already struck again. Outpost Gamma 47 was buried deep inside a stormy gas gianta. Top secret communications center known only to top council leadership. Even the species who helped build it didn't know where it was. Earth found it anyway. The outpost's last transmission came at 3:02. Scrambled message filled with static and screams, then silence. When backup teams finally arrived days later, they expected destruction. Fires, blast marks. What they found was worse. Everything was intact, no signs of battle. All weapon systems were still armed, but every crew member was gone. The data logs had been wiped, placed with a single symbol. A human hand, palm open, dripping a single drop of red, and beneath it, one line: "You took our voice, we take your secrets." At this point, the Council's greatest fear wasn't that Earth could destroy them. It was that Earth knew exactly where to strike and how to hurt them without firing a shot. High Command scrambled to encrypt all sensitive files, but it was useless. Earth's ghost fleets didn't just destroy, they extracted, before stations went dark. Surveillance logs confirmed one pattern: Terran infiltration units disabling comms, pulling data cores, vanishing before alarms triggered. Every stolen byte of information was a weapon, and Earth was collecting them all. Suddenly, even the Council's allies were afraid to speak openly, because maybe, just maybe, Earth was listening. The Council had one hope left. They called it Project Soulblade, forbidden weapon, built in secret long ago, capable of triggering a stellar collapse within a specific sun. Their plan? Use it to threaten Earth's solar system, not as a weapon to fire, but as leverage. They never got the chance. As the project team prepared to transport the device, their transport ship exploded in mid-warp. No warning, no impact signature. Just a complete collapse of its warp bubble, something no species in the galaxy had ever been able to trigger from the outside. Earth could now kill you in hyperspace, and with that realization came another. No one was safe anymore, back on Earth. Admiral Elias Grant stood inside the orbital command tower, watching the data feed scroll across a dozen glowing screens. He had not spoken to the press. He had not answered the Council's pleas. He only watched the list of targets shrink, watched the galaxy fall quiet. Beside him stood Commander Anaya Chen, her voice low. "Do we keep going?" Grant looked out at the stars. "We haven't started yet? They're begging for talks." "They killed our diplomat," Grant replied. "We don't talk to executioners, not until they bleed." And bleed, the Council did. Within weeks, 27 critical installations were erased. No bombings, no invasions, just vanished. No survivors. Sometimes, just a message was left. Other times, only silence. Council morale collapsed. One species after another filed for independence. Worlds stopped responding to Council directives. In panic, some even reached out to Earth pleading. But Earth had not forgotten who signed the execution order, and they had a list. Then came the final shift. A massive Council dreadnought Vornikars. Crown disappeared en route to a peace summit. It was carrying delegates who were prepared to issue a formal apology to Earth. For the first time, Earth responded. A broadcast lit up the stars. No image, just a voice. A calm, male Terran voice. "We know what you're doing," you think, saying. "Sorry saves you. But peace isn't given. It's earned. You want peace? Bring us the ones who gave the order. Bring us Drelvas Sauron. Bring her in chains." Only then does the blood price stop. The Council hesitated, but Drell didn't. She fled, vanished into the Edge systems with a private fleet, abandoning her fellow delegates. The galaxy saw her cowardice, and that was the final blow. Now, even her closest allies condemned her. Civil uprisings began. Council structures were burned. Rebel groups rose. The organization that ruled the stars for centuries fractured in a matter of weeks, and Earth didn't even step forward to claim credit. They let the galaxy implode from its own lies. In the end, no Terran army ever needed to land. No capital was bombed, no cities were leveled, but the cost of killing a human envoy, the price of executing peace. It was blood, not spilled by bullets, but by memory, by the weight of Earth's silence and the quiet, calculated wrath that followed. By now, even the stars seemed quieter. The once glorious unity of the Galactic Council was no longer a symbol of order, but of fear, shame, and something worse, division. What had taken over 400 years to build was unraveling in a matter of weeks, not through war, not through diplomacy, but through a presence no one could understand and no one could stop. Earth hadn't just broken the Council's grip on the galaxy, they had broken the illusion that it could never fall. Entire systems that once feared the Terrans now feared being aligned against them. And the ones still loyal to the Council were being hunted not by Earth directly, but by their own people. It started with whispers, then riots, then full revolutions. But none of it was random, because Earth's ghost fleets weren't just striking, they were leaving messages behind. On the industrial world of Herrick 7, a citywide blackout triggered chaos. For 3 hours, the planet's central power grid collapsed, its skies flickering with brief flashes of unnatural static. When it came back online, every public screen in every district displayed a simple video clip. It wasn't violent. No threats, just a recording. A recording of the moment Earth's diplomat. Envoy Thomas Wren stood in the council chamber and offered peace, his voice calm, his words honest. We do not seek war, we seek dignity. Then without a cut, the footage showed his execution. Cold, immediate, brutal. No trial. No vote. Just murder. The video ended with one Terran word, burned into the screen. Remember? That word spread like a virus within days. Protesters chanted it outside council buildings. Remember? Remember. Council soldiers were ordered to clear them, but even some of the troops began to hesitate, because most of them had watched the execution live too. Many of them had believed in peace with Earth. They had family in neutral systems. They had traded with humans. Some even owed their lives to Terran medics during past conflicts. And now, they were being asked to die for leaders who started a war and ran, because Drelvos Soren, the woman who had signed the execution order, was gone, not captured, not on trial. Gone, fled like a coward into deep space, abandoning her council seat, her guards, her own homeworld. She left behind only a brief encrypted message. They will never forgive. They will never stop. Survive. However you can. Her name became poison. Her face, the symbol of betrayal, and the unity of the council cracked wide open. The Mayari Republic was the first to leave. Their High Chancellor gave a speech that broadcast to over 300 planets. We cannot follow leaders who answer peace with death, she said. We condemn the Council's actions. From this moment forward, the Mayari Republic severs all ties with the Galactic Council and recognizes Earth as a sovereign power with the right to retaliate. Others followed fast. The Talic Confederacy withdrew next. Then the Draylen. Then 3 border nations who had previously remained silent declared themselves allies to Earth and began opening communication channels. Carefully, they didn't beg. They didn't demand forgiveness. They offered truth, and Earth listened, but never responded publicly. In one secret meeting, former Council intelligence officer defected. He was granted an audience with a Terran AI representative, not a person. The meeting took place inside a silent Terran shuttle floating far from any system. There were no guards. It's just one black terminal glowing dimly in the center of the room. You want peace? The AI asked, speaking in perfect basic. Yes, the officer whispered. Then help us expose them all. Show us who voted. Show us who stayed silent. The officer hesitated. Why? Because the AI said Earth does not punish entire species, only the guilty. The files were uploaded, the AI vanished, the shuttle left the officer unharmed. 3 days later, those files, council meeting records, vote transcripts, private messages, leaked across the entire galaxy, and the council's mask shattered forever. Worlds that once trusted the council now saw it for what it had become, a club of power-hungry cowards willing to kill diplomacy to protect their grip on influence. The video logs showed the plan clearly. The execution had been pre-planned. The accusations were false. Envoy Ren had never spied. He had never violated their rules. They simply feared Earth's growing influence and chose a message over morality. That message backfired, and now the council had no allies left. Only survivors in desperation. The remaining council members gathered in a bunker beneath the surface of Delvoria Prime, one of their last strongholds. They argued, screamed. Some demanded surrender to Earth, others demanded war. But one by one, they fell silent when the lights dimmed. A signal pierced their private defense net, indetectable, traceable. Every screen lit up with the same phrase. Your council is broken. Your time has ended. Your name is remembered only in betrayal. Then, darkness, followed by silence. No weapons fired, no explosions, but each of them understood Earth had already found them, and they were being spared. For now, back on Earth, the public never cheered. There were no victory parades, no songs, no loud declarations of dominance, because this wasn't a war Earth had wanted. It was a war Earth had been dragged into. And every human on Earth remembered one thing: Tomas Ren's last words, before he was taken away. We offered you peace, not because we feared war, but because we knew how terrible war could be. So Earth did not gloat. They documented, they remembered. They archived every world that had helped them, and every world that stayed silent, because the galaxy now knew. Humanity never forgets. Not kindness, not betrayal, and not the price of peace turned to blood. They waited across the galaxy in bunkers and starships and hollowed-out stations. The last loyalists to the council held their breath. They waited for the moment Earth would push past the shadows, past the whispered strikes, past the symbols and the silence. They waited for the one thing they all feared more than death. The moment Earth would stop haunting, start conquering. That moment came not with a declaration, not with a massive battle fleet, not with orbital strikes. It came from deep space, at the edge of the Orion Rift. In a place long thought unreachable, Sector 93Z, a sector no council fleet dared cross. Black holes, gravitational storms, ancient radiation, the perfect graveyard. That's where Earth moved first, not to kill, not to invade, but to build. They brought their mobile foundries, their AI-guided forge ships, their deep crust drills, and energy harvesters. They didn't ask for permission, didn't announce it. Within 2 days, an entire forward base was established, and the message was clear. This is no longer your galaxy, the Council. What was left of IT panicked. They assumed Earth would target their core worlds. Instead, Earth took the one thing they had never expected anyone to steal: control of space, self. Earth's fleets didn't move in straight lines. They moved like predators circling, feinting, waiting. They claimed nothing openly. But behind the void, relay stations went dark. Border outposts stopped responding. Hyperspace lanes that once carried council power now carried nothing, because Earth had cut them off. They didn't need to invade your world. They could just make sure no one else ever reached it again. The first true strike was not with weapons, but with gravity. A planet called Zeratal, formerly under council protection, had once been a mining colony with enormous tactical value. The council used its core stations to process rare quantum alloys, materials used in their warships. Earth disabled them without ever landing. 5 of Earth's stealth ships entered orbit, unseen. They dropped seismic probes deep into the crust. Then, silence. 4 hours later, Zaratal's equatorial power grid collapsed. All orbital stations tilted, their gravity stabilizers unbalanced. No explosions, no craters, Just a shift in the planet's magnetic alignment so precise, so devastating, that the entire mining system failed permanently. The council tried to blame equipment failure, but everyone knew, at midnight. A message appeared on the surface of the SH. Ruined processing hub, projected in blue Terran light. You ignored our envoy's words, now you feel his silence. No one tried to rebuild. Admiral Grant watched from orbit aboard TDS Aegis. His face showed no emotion. The crew around him remained quiet. Earth's military had been prepared for total war, but what they were delivering wasn't total war. It was surgical extinction removal of only those elements that once laughed when peace died. And still, they waited. Still, they held back, because Earth didn't want the galaxy to burn. They wanted the galaxy to remember why peace existed in the first place. But some council remnants still didn't get the message. A coalition of former military officers hiding near the dead system of Nivelis attempted to regroup. They gathered 22 ships, brought to battle cruisers. They declared war on Earth, broadcast threats, swore vengeance. It was over in 11 minutes. The ghost fleets didn't even respond verbally. They appeared in waves. 3 ships only, but each one acted like a storm of intelligence. Shields that bent light. Drones that moved faster than thought. Cannons that bent space, not metal. By the time the Nivelis coalition realized they were outmatched, their command bridge had been sliced open, not with weapons, but with data. Earth's AI force had hacked the fleet's neural interface in less than 60 seconds. The entire coalition fleet was paralyzed in place, their weapons disarmed, their drives overheated. Their lights flickered off. Then a final message came across every officer's comes, delivered in calm Terran monotone. You chose to speak after silence. We do not listen to dead men. Fleets burned slowly. Earth did not retrieve the wreckage. They left it floating like a warning buoy. Even now, Earth had not fired the first shot on a civilian world. No colony had been bombed. No markets targeted, but the entire economic spine of the former council had collapsed. And that was Earth's plan all along. Because the war wasn't being fought with soldiers. It was being fought with fear, precision, and memory. Back on Earth, cities were calm. People went to work. Shuttles flew in perfect patterns. There were no riots, no chance for blood. Because Earth didn't crave revenge. Earth executed justice the same way its envoy had once spoken. With control, but in the Terran military complex beneath the Eurasian defense range. The final phase had begun. Phase 4. Strike authorization. Selective. Collapse Commander Anaya Chen stood before a map holographic, showing dozens of flickering red dots. Each one was a target, each one was personal, because each one was connected to someone who voted yes when Thomas Wren was led away in chains. They wouldn't destroy entire worlds. They'd just make sure those individuals never slept easy again. On a floating archive moon near the Council's last loyal zone, Terran agents arrived undetected. They didn't destroy the archives. They altered them. Erased the Council's lies. Restored hidden recordings. Uploaded everything to the public galaxy-wide net. Suddenly, every world, rich or poor, aligned or neutral, could see the truth. They watched the backroom deal where Drelva Sarin was promised control of a new sector. If she silenced Earth, they watched the vote faked in timing, forced through a legal protocol. They watched the moment Earth's envoy was killed, not in anger, but as a stage play for dominance. And now, the entire galaxy watched, and Earth didn't say a word. They didn't need to. Their wrath had already begun. And it wasn't fire. It wasn't bullets. It was a storm made of silence. Carried by ships no one could detect, guided by AI minds that forgot nothing, fueled by a species that had once offered peace, but had been answered with death. They thought Earth's fury would be quick, explosive, a flash of warships and fire, then silence. That's how wars had always gone. Civilizations rise, clash, and fade. But Earth didn't burn worlds. Earth didn't scream. Earth didn't even show itself. And that, more than anything, is is what terrified the galaxy. Because true wrath doesn't rage, it waits. And Earth had been waiting for centuries, not just for revenge, not just for the murder of Envoy Thomas, but for the moment when every mask fell. For the moment the galaxy saw the Council for what it really was. A tower of lies held up by fear and fake diplomacy. Now that tower had cracked, and Earth wasn't pushing it over, they were letting it fall on its own, one memory at a time. The former council world of Tarnaxis had once been a symbol of control-lit skies patrolled by elite guard fleets, its cities powered by council-funded reactors. But after Earth's archives leaked the truth about the Envoy's execution, the people of Tarnaxis turned inward. They stopped responding to council commands. Their fleets drifted into silence. Their soldiers lowered their weapons. But Earth did not strike. Instead, they waited. And then quietly, precisely, they sent a signal from deep space. A Terran message. No threats, no demands. Just a transmission. It played across Tarnax's airwaves every hour. We remember you. We know who stood silent. Your hands may not have fired the shot, but they clapped when the sentence was passed. Tarnaxis fell into chaos not from bombs, but from guilt. Their own leaders turned against each other. Former officials were dragged into the streets. Statues of council generals were melted. All while Earth's ghost fleets orbited silently in the void above, never firing, never landing, just watching. That was Earth's wrath. It wasn't violence. It was the feeling that violence could fall at any moment, and you'd never see it coming. Meanwhile, the Terran AI systems began Operation Lantern, a coordinated psychological campaign using intercepted data, predictive models, and quantum deception. Targeted messages appeared on council ships mid-flight. Terran phrases whispered from silent speakers inside stations, glowing words on the walls of bunkers that had never been breached. He came in peace. You chose blood. And now you are remembered. Commanders began to crack. Some fled their posts. Others tried to surrender too. No one, because Earth had no representative, no embassy, no number to call. Just silence, because Earth did not negotiate with the architects of murder. Not anymore, Admiral. Elias Grant sat in the Terran Fleet Command deep above Earth's upper orbit. His face was unreadable, but behind his still eyes was the memory of Thomas Rend, his friend. A man who had believed that the galaxy could change through words. A man who had smiled even when he stood in front of enemies who hated him, and a man who had died alone. Grant reviewed a list of council loyalist strongholds. Only a few remained. One in particular, Citadel Couratus, a floating fortress near the edge of council space. That's where the final vote had taken place. That's where the killing order had been confirmed. That was where the last of the cowards still held on to their broken pride. So Earth sent a final warning. Not a fleet, not a strike, just a message. The stars forget many things. We do not. Is not conquest. This is remembrance. Step down, disband, or the silence becomes your sentence. Couratus refused. The generals inside believed they were strong enough to resist. They had energy shields, planetary defense rings, kinetic missiles. But they didn't realize Earth had already arrived, because the Terran ghost fleets didn't move. In ways the Council understood, they were already inside the defense ring. They had already mapped the base, already disabled half the sensor systems without anyone noticing when the strike came. It wasn't with missiles. It was with gravity. A Terran satellite, smaller than a shuttle, drifted toward the station. Inside it, a sphere of compressed dark matter spun in an artificial chamber. When detonated, it didn't explode. It folded the space around it, just enough to make all orbiting mass shift by 0.002 degrees. That's all it took, Couratus. Own defense grid tore itself apart. Cannons misfired, turrets bent backward, power cores ruptured from imbalance, and the Terran ships, they watched from the shadows. When Couratus went dark, Earth sent one last signal. Debt paid. Judgment rendered. No empire outlives the truth. After that, the galaxy fell still. No more messages. No more strikes. Just the silence of victory not declared, but understood. Earth never demanded tribute, never claimed territory. They simply stopped. The ghost fleets vanished, returning to the dark places between stars. No headlines screamed Terran domination, because domination was never the goal. It was justice. On a quiet moon, orbiting an unremarkable gas giant, a small memorial now stands, not marked by governments, not guarded by fleets, just a slab of black alloy, carved by human hands. On it for words in 100 languages, he spoke. You killed. Beneath it, now you understand. There were no closing ceremonies, no great speeches, no banners of victory stretched across planets, no parades marching under the light of twin suns. The war that began with one man's death didn't end with fireworks. It ended with memory, kind that never fades, never softens, and never forgives. The galaxy didn't see a human empire rise. It saw something far more chilling, a people who did not forget. The council had vanished, its flags taken down, its proud halls abandoned. Some stripped for scrap, others left to drift through vacuum like forgotten relics. The very name council had become a curse. Whole species erased it from their history. Children asked what it meant, and the elders changed the subject. Even those who had once ruled from its highest towers now lived in hiding, in exile, or in fear that one day a shadow would pass over their door and Earth's justice would finally arrive. But it never came. Because Earth didn't need to punish the galaxy anymore it already had. And now, simply watched. Across neutral systems and broken empires, the new generations grew up hearing the same story. They weren't taught it in schools. They heard it in whispers from old captains and haunted traders, in bars on dead moons, or inside bunkers built during the Terran silence. It went like this. There was once a man named Thomas Wren. He came without soldiers, without shields. Just words. He offered peace. And the galaxy spat in his face. They mocked him, feared his voice, and in the end they killed him. But that was not the end. Because humans remember, not just faces, not just betrayals. They remember why they came. They remember what you did. They remember how to make you remember too. In a wide-open desert on the planet Kalos, a ruined council fortress still stands. It's been left untouched, turned into a museum of silence. There are no guides. Only a Terran beacon hovering above it, always transmitting the same phrase on loop. Forgiveness is not forgetting. People travel light years just to stand in its shadow. Some weep, some rage, some kneel, because that place wasn't destroyed by bombs. It was emptied by fear. Every soul inside had left on their own, because Earth didn't have to break them. It made them break themselves. Back on Earth, peace returned not with celebration, but with breath. Human cities glowed again. Sky lanes buzzed with life. Families sat in parks under starlit skies, and above them, orbiting silently, the ghost fleets remained. Not attacking, not invading, just waiting, just remembering each ship carried the name of someone who had believed in peace. TDS Wren, TDS Halima, TDS Saren's word, TDS Promise. They weren't warships anymore. They were sentinels, reminders, and warnings. Because humans didn't seek conquest. But if ever again, the stars turned cruel. If ever again someone raised their hand against Earth's outstretched peace, they would return. Not for battle, but for justice. Sharper than any weapon, in time a new alliance began to form, not forced, not ruled. Voluntary, it wasn't about power, it was about principle. They called it the Pact of Memory, and the first law carved into its founding document was not military protocol or economic terms. It was just 5 words. Peace is built on truth, and underneath it, a warning. Should truth be buried, the stars will remember. On the 100th cycle since the envoy's death, a final message from Earth was sent out, not encrypted, not hidden, open to the entire galaxy. It wasn't long, just A voice, calm, human, and steady. We offered peace. You answered with death. We returned not with rage, but with memory. And now you live in the truth we unearthed. We do not rule. We do not forget. Stars remember. So do we. Then silence, and the stars shone a little colder that night. No empire had fallen like the council had. No war had ended with so few shots fired, but the cost was burned into history. One man, one voice, one moment where peace could have lived on. The galaxy killed it. Now it knows what that cost feels like. Because humans may build in silence. They may speak with reason. They may offer peace first, second, even third. But if you betray them, if you murder what they believe in, they will burn your name into history, and make sure the stars never let you forget it.